Morning everybody, how are y'all doing today? I'm doing great, but DreamcastGuy is not, because as you can probably imagine, after the news that PlayStation is hiring somebody to push them more multi-platform, he is a bit shooketh, a bit bewildered, because DreamcastGuy, in case you don't know, is arguably the biggest proponent of the Xbox is dead argument on the entire internet. I think he made, over 100 videos last year saying that Xbox was dead, and he's done it dozens of times this year. And the main reason he would always say this is because, no exclusivity, console sales down, yada yada yada, whatever. A big focus though was the exclusivity thing, and how now they're bringing all their stuff to PlayStation, so they're definitely dead for sure this time, only to then be slapped in the face by the palm of reality, because now PlayStation is not only putting Helldivers on Xbox, but it looks like they're going to be putting even more games on Xbox. Now, in typical DreamcastGuy fashion, instead of immediately within the first 10 minutes uploading a video saying they're dead or whatever, it's PlayStation, so we gotta be a bit nice to them. So he decided to wait a day. And it is really funny when you think about it. Like, if Xbox is so dead, then why is PlayStation putting their games over there? Really makes you think, doesn't it? But yeah, I want to take a look at this video, not the whole thing, because honestly, I gotta get out of here in like less than an hour and a half. So we're gonna go through some of the highlights of this video and see what our good old friend Creamy Dreamy has to say about this. I don't know why I called him that. I am so sorry. But yeah, without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into this. Also, if DreamcastGuy's video is extremely laggy, that's not me. He literally just uploaded the video like that. This man took an extra day to get his video out and still couldn't even be bothered to actually make it run smoothly. All right, anyway, let's take a look at what he has to say.
Hey there gamers, DreamcastGuy here, and today we're talking about that post that has very much pissed off the entire internet, which is the fact that last night's PlayStation said something very, very strange. PlayStation officially said that the future of PlayStation isn't necessarily just playing games on your PS5, your PS6. It's actually about more than that. They said we're building a dedicated team to take the very best PlayStation experiences and put them into other places.
I mean, this should not be surprising to you unless you've literally been living under a rock or you just don't follow gaming news whatsoever. PlayStation's multi-platform push over the last 5 years has been very evident. It started in 2020 with Horizon Zero Dawn, then in 2022 they brought over Spider-Man and God of War, two of the biggest games, to PC anyway. And now the amount of time between the PlayStation version of a game and the PC version of that PlayStation game is getting smaller and smaller. We're already seeing day and date with live service games, and games like Spider-Man 2 took less than a year to get announced for PC, and just over a year to come over. And guess what? Spider-Man 2 was actually their fastest selling single-player game of all time, and it still came to PC that quickly. So yeah, if you didn't see the games coming to Xbox and that kind of blew you away, then I can understand that. But if you honestly thought the future of PlayStation was gonna be only playing games on your PS5 and your PS6, you're just ignoring reality.
Is this going to be every single game? Is Spider-Man going, or is God of War going to Xbox? And I have to admit that this is an incredibly surprising thing. As a person that not only covers gaming, but has specifically covered PlayStation now for decades.
Okay, whoa, DreamcastGuy, I'm gonna stop you right there. Specifically talk about PlayStation? Come on, dude, we all know that's a lie. Now, I'm not gonna lie, he talks about PlayStation, yes, he talks about a lot of gaming topics, but let's not act like when there's some bad Xbox news, this dude doesn't make 15 videos talking about them. You talk about Xbox way more than anything else on your channel, dude. You're basically an Xbox channel, whether you want to admit it or not. But he asked, is Spider-Man and God of War gonna go to Xbox? I would say probably. And I already mentioned this in the last video, but could you imagine if they announced Spider-Man for Xbox at Gamescom? I think the Twitter servers might go down the same way they did when Minecraft Steve got announced for Smash.
It's wild to watch because historically, Sony has had this tactic called the walled garden approach, which is that usually what they like to do is PlayStation is very, very defensive historically about their exclusives. They're like, okay, do you want our stories? Do you want our world? well, you got to come to our playground to play it, right?
I think Dreamcast Guy's brain might be stuck in the 90s, not gonna lie. PlayStation has not been like this for about 5 years now. They're putting more and more stuff on other platforms as time has gone on. And I think Dreamcast Guy is gonna bring this up later, but I'll still briefly touch on it. Do you want to know why they're shifting their strategy? You know, PlayStation guys love to say Xbox players don't buy games. But if PlayStation gamers are really buying enough games, then why is PlayStation having to come to other places? How come 6 years ago they were doing the walled garden approach, and now all of a sudden they're day and date on PC, and they're starting to bring their own games to Xbox? Really makes you think, doesn't it? It's almost like the best business move is to be multi-plat, so you can make the most amount of money.
Because the internet for the last 12 hours, ever since this job listing got posted, has been debating if this is a good thing, a bad thing, or honestly, the end of PlayStation. Let's talk.
I'm just gonna say, Dreamcast Guy, if you were consistent at all, you would have called this video PlayStation is dead. Like, not gonna lie, because you're making fun of the whole PlayStation is dead thing right here, but let's be real. That is ideally what you would have titled your video if you were being consistent. But you said, is this good, bad, or the end of PlayStation? I'll tell you right now, this is not the end of PlayStation, and this is a good thing. It's as simple as that.
Xbox is doing the same. They're currently trying to get ready for some sort of next-gen console wars. But what if what they do is instead, okay, we've got our games, you've got your games, but every year stuff jumps platforms. Say 2027, let's say 2027, a big batch of PlayStation 6 games come out. Maybe late 2028, we see all those games start going to next-gen Xbox and vice versa, right?
I'm not gonna lie, that sounds pretty damn good to me. I mean, honestly, day and date would be preferable, but more PlayStation games going to Xbox and more Xbox games going to PlayStation sounds very good in my opinion. Although I'm sure there's gonna be some people in the comments ready to explain how wrong I am for thinking that. Also, I'm not gonna lie, assuming the PS6 does come out in 2027, I don't know if I'd expect a big batch of games. Given PlayStation's recent release cycle, just don't get your hopes up is all I'm saying. There'll probably be lots of upgrades for PS5 games going to PS6, but in terms of PS6 like launch titles, I don't know if I'd get too overhyped for that. But then again, that could change. Who knows? Maybe they'll suddenly turn around and put out a bunch of games that year. I'm just saying, based on recent years, don't get your hopes up too high.
I still feel like even then, I feel like this job listing conveys more than that. A lot of people are trying to say it's probably just live service games, because we know for a fact there is a lot of live service games already. This is a PlayStation Studios game. This right here, Marathon, is a PlayStation Studios game. This is the official Xbox store. So there is already some PlayStation Studios first-party stuff on Xbox, but the listing to me, it makes it sound like it's more than that.
You know what? Credit where credit's due. Dreamcast Guy is actually being kind of smart about this one. At least he's not hopping on the it's just live service games bandwagon, because I'm just gonna say it, if you are one of the people saying it's just live service, you sound exactly like the Xbox guys last year saying it's just 4 games, who you were probably making fun of for saying that. It is overwhelmingly likely we're gonna see some single-player PlayStation games on Xbox. And might I just add, most people saying that are probably people moving the goalpost, who originally said that no PlayStation games would come to Xbox. And before that, they probably said no PlayStation games will come day and date to PC. And before that, they probably said no PlayStation games would come to PC at all. You see what I mean? If you keep moving the goalpost, not only do you look like a clown, but you're also just gonna be setting yourself up for disappointment repeatedly, which you really shouldn't be. Like, I don't know why people are so desperate to think, oh, it's just live service. Like, do you want it to be only live service? Do you not want games to go to Xbox? Like, why not? Honestly, answer me. What benefit would PlayStation gamers have had if Helldivers 2 didn't come out day and date on PC? I'm willing to bet you can't give me a good answer.
According to a job listing at Sony, their goal is to expand PlayStation Studio titles across Steam, Xbox, and Nintendo. And a lot of people are going, okay, what does this actually mean?
It means that they are full third party, and by your logic, they are dead. That is what it means, plain and simple.
Now, a lot of people are trying to sort of figure out what this means. This is Nib. I'm a big fan of Nib on Twitter. A lot of people like to hate on this guy. He talks a lot about basically loving PlayStation. I feel like I don't really count this as a fanboy account personally. Maybe there's some tweets I haven't seen, but he always just seems like he very much just loves PlayStation. It doesn't feel like he's trying to defend PlayStation, but again, maybe there's some like goofiness I haven't seen, but he says it like this.
Oh no, Dreamcast Guy, why? Oh no. What do you mean you don't count him as a fanboy? Dude, he's the epitome of a fanboy. He is literally in this post that you have on the screen, moving the goalpost and changing the definition of what third party means. I literally talked about this in my last video. Like, he's saying now that it doesn't count as full third party unless they go day and date on Xbox. How is he not a fanboy, dude? And by the way, if you're missing, quote unquote, missing some interactions or some posts he's made, something tells me you're just being willingly ignorant. Just ignore all the fanboy stuff he says so you can try to justify using him as a source. And by the way, I love how he himself admits that so many people hate on this guy. Maybe there's a reason for that. It's almost like he's not reliable. God, Dreamcast Guy using Nib as a source is like the blind following the blind. One fanboy uses another as a source. You really can't make this up. And I love how Dreamcast Guy even admits, oh, it just seems like he loves PlayStation, but I don't think he's a fanboy. No. There's a fine line between loving a platform and being a fanboy for it, and Nib absolutely is on the other side of that line.
To me, I think what PlayStation is trying to do, games are just getting so expensive. Let's throw out a hypothetical. There's talks that next year we're getting some sort of new Spider-Man game called Venom. There's going to be a new Insomniac Spider-Man game. Apparently it's already done. Apparently Tony Todd recorded a bunch of lines for it before he passed away. Rest in peace. Huge Tony Todd fan. I want to play this Venom game, and we haven't even seen it yet. I'm super excited about it. There's actually leaks and stuff about it. But let's just say hypothetically. Okay, Venom game comes out 2026. It's fantastic. Everything's great. And then everybody's loving it. It sells, I don't know, 7 million units, right? I think that's a good guess for what it's probably going to sell. Okay, sells 7 million units. And then they go, okay, we made back $300 million of the $300 million budget. We've broken even. Now let's put it on Steam. Okay, there's an extra 70 million. Okay, let's put it on Xbox. Even if they only make a couple million, I wonder if they're just doing that napkin math and saying, okay, that's more profitability. And I guess what their strategy is something I feel like Xbox has toyed with but been less successful with, which is, okay, here's our platform, here's our exclusives, now you want to come play with us, right?
No. We are not about to make this argument again. This is the exact argument that Reforge loves to use. That, oh, they're just putting these games on Xbox to entice Xbox players to come over to PlayStation. Remember when people tried to say this about the PC ports? And they were like, oh, well, you know, it makes sense that they're putting God of War and Spider-Man on PC because those sequels are coming out soon. So then PC guys will want to buy a PlayStation. And then what happened? God of War Ragnarok and Spider-Man 2 came out on PC, with, might I add, a far smaller release gap than what their original games had between the PlayStation and the PC versions. Stop trying to use this whole, oh, they're just trying to get Xbox players onto PlayStation thing as a cope. If that were the case, why are they releasing the games over there at all? Because guess what's gonna happen? Xbox players are gonna play, say, like, Spider-Man 1, and then they're gonna be like, damn, that was good. I can't wait for Spider-Man 2 to come to Xbox. I'll wait for that. Will some of them buy a PlayStation? Maybe, but I guarantee you most of them are just gonna wait. Also, I feel bad for anybody who buys a PlayStation for Spider-Man 2, not gonna lie. Also, dude, do you really think Xbox's strategy was, hey, let's put games on PlayStation to get people to come over to us? Because that's honestly kind of hilarious if you think that's what they were trying to do. Kind of like how it's hilarious that you think that's what PlayStation's trying to do right here. Like I said before, people use this exact same excuse with PC, and look what happened.
It seems like what Xbox's original idea was is, okay, if we give you some of these games, if you play the Gears of War Remake Collection, that's coming out here at the end of August, right? Okay, you're going to want that. Now, whenever Gears of War E-Day gets a release date on Xbox only, you're going to actually be tempted. Okay, do I want an Xbox? Do I want to upgrade my PC so I can play that on PC Game Pass? That seems like what Xbox's goal has been.
You know, it's really funny that he says this because a rumor just came out that Gears of War E-Day might be getting a PS5 version. And I mean, honestly, even if we didn't know that, let's logically think about this. Do you really think they're gonna put a Gears of War game day and date on PlayStation? A remaster of a remaster, by the way. Day and date on PlayStation to get people to buy an Xbox for E-Day. Microsoft themselves know that's not gonna happen because that's not how this works. everybody on PlayStation is just gonna wait for E-Day to come to PS5. Once you put one of your games on another platform, the can of worms is opened and any game is fair game at that point. Again, will some people buy the other platform? Maybe. It's definitely possible. Is that what most people are gonna do, though?
No.
The reason this still seems crazy to me is because I grew up during the 80s and 90s console wars, right? I mean, I grew up during a time where you could not even imagine getting Mario on the Sega Genesis or getting Sonic on the Super Nintendo, right? It's difficult to even imagine. It seems so impossibly preposterous. Or seeing Master Chief on the GameCube. It was just impossible. It was unfathomable.
Yeah, you know, back in the day, I can imagine that probably was unfathomable, but guess what? We live in a different time, and different does not mean bad. I would argue this is better. Having the potential of a game like God of War coming to Xbox is a better time to live in than a time where it's unthinkable. Like, there were plenty of great older games, but one of the great things was not the fact that you couldn't play them on any system except for one. Would a game like Mario have been worse if it was on a system besides the NES? No, that would have been a great thing. But that was also a different time when exclusivity was more important. And more importantly, like DreamcastGuy said earlier, games didn't cost $1 bajillion. I'm gonna say it, exclusivity is no longer viable unless you're Nintendo. Even then, you know, I do think Nintendo should go multi-plat, but they're like the last company that can actually get away with exclusivity because, you know, they actually know how to manage the budget of a game. So yeah, is it weird that we could see Master Chief on PlayStation or Nathan Drake on Xbox? Sure, it might be weird, but weird does not mean bad. Like, I don't know how relatable this is going to be for people, but I would usually ask my parents before I had a job, even if I was buying something with my own money that I had saved or whatever, I was like, hey, can I get this thing? But then once I got my own job, I didn't have to ask their permission anymore because I was earning that money by myself. Was that weird? Yes. Was it bad? Hell no.
But I think it'll be even more odd for me to see something like Uncharted. There's the Uncharted collection, right? Uncharted is fantastic. Uncharted is 10 out of 10 great. Love, love, love it. If they put Uncharted onto the Xbox, obviously people are going to love it there, but it also just feels odd. It just feels like, in a way, the end of PlayStation, because I have very much, in a way, so much identified PlayStation with that walled garden approach.
Again, you're kind of acting like this is a bad thing, though, and I don't know why. People love to use the, oh, this will ruin the identity of the console. Guess what? The developers who work for that console manufacturer are still going to be making the games. And how does this mean that PlayStation would be dead? Like, okay, at least he said it, but like, that literally makes no sense. They're still going to be around. They're still going to be making consoles. They're still making games. They're just putting it on another platform so more people can buy it. In no way would this be the end of PlayStation. They would make more money than ever. Now, is exclusivity at PlayStation dead? Yes, absolutely. But that's not a bad thing. And if all you associate PlayStation with is exclusivity, that's not a good thing. Like, if the only thing tying you to a plastic box or your love for it, whatever, is the fact that you're forced to buy it for certain games, it's a bad plastic box. Sorry, not sorry. Hardware that you have no incentive to buy outside of being forced to for certain games is bad hardware. Plain and simple.
Finally, the end of petty exclusivity. I have to admit that this is the wildest thing to me, is that everybody is talking about how happy they are about the end of exclusivity. I've always thought exclusivity was a fascinating concept because I do think it leads to better games. I do think that it leads to that rivalry. I'm a big fan of iron sharpens iron, right? If you're making a great game, I'm going to be even more pressured to make the best game possible, right? I do think that's why Xbox has done so many acquisitions, whether it is Bethesda or Activision and stuff. They're buying it because, okay, we want to have the best possible games day and date on Game Pass, right? But if PlayStation was not churning out as many good games as they were, especially during the PlayStation 4 generation, I don't think that would have lit that fire into the ass of Xbox that eventually led to all those acquisitions, right?
Okay, there's a lot to unpack there. First of all, the fact that DreamcastGuy is surprised that people are happy about the end of exclusivity. Why does this surprise you? You're surprised that people are excited that they won't have to buy a specific box to play a couple games. Like, really think about that. You're honestly surprised by that? And also, no, I strongly disagree on the idea that exclusivity leads to better games, because all of the best games of this generation have been third-party and have been multi-platform. Elden Ring, Baldur's Gate 3, Expedition 33, Helldivers 2, Doom the Dark Ages. These are some of my favorite games of this generation, and none of them are exclusive. Now, are there great games that are exclusive to one platform? Of course, Nintendo's the best example of this. DK Bonanza just came out. I haven't played it yet, but everybody's talking about how it's Game of the Year 10 out of 10. But the fact that it was exclusive is not what made the game great. If it released on PlayStation and Xbox as well, it still would have been the same great game. Just more people would have gotten to play it. Also, guess what? Companies would still have to make great games even if they didn't release them only on one platform anymore. Because guess what? If games aren't good, people won't buy them unless it's like COD or Madden. But with very few exceptions, yeah, games still have to be good for them to be purchased. And guess what? If publishers don't make money off of games, then they have to try harder and make better ones. Like, it's not like without exclusivity, there's going to be no incentive to make good games anymore. Because guess what? If the game isn't good, people won't buy it. And I think that's the realization that a lot of people need to come to or are starting to come to as exclusivity is dying.
Oh my god. The PlayStation job listing is 911 for Zubitech. Zubitech is like a big PlayStation fanboy account. Oh my god.
No. We're not about to brush past the fact that you just called Zubitech a PlayStation fanboy account, because you have used him as your source in literally dozens of videos. And now suddenly you're gonna admit that he's a PlayStation fanboy account? Dude, oh my god. This dude knowingly was using biased sources in all of these videos and just acted like it was fine. And now he's trying to play it off like a haha. He's a fanboy, guys. Look at this. He changed his whole profile and everything. No. You don't get to do that. You were using him as a source. Just stop it. Alrighty, guys, and honestly, with that being said, that's really all I've got for this video. There's not much more else to talk about. He just goes over some Reddit comments, and then he does end off the video by saying that if PlayStation's output doesn't speed up, then it won't matter if they put games on other platforms, which I kind of agree with, honestly. But yeah, I'm already out of time as it is. I have to get going. I'll be gone for a few days, but I will return on Thursday, and God, I can't wait. So yeah, with all that being said, guys, thank you all so much for watching. Be sure to like the video if you liked it, dislike it if you didn't like it, subscribe if you want to see more. Join us every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern for Salt streams, and join us every Friday night 9 p.m. Eastern on the gaming channel for gaming streams, and I will catch you all next time.